Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something that literally impacts every single one of us, yet, let's be honest, most of us only ever glance at that final number at the bottom of the slip, right? We're talking about your paycheck. But look, we're not just doing math today. The premise here is that your paycheck isn't just some boring administrative payout, far from it. It's actually a carefully engineered psychological and financial instrument. It's literally the exact value an organization places on your knowledge, your skills, and your experience. So if you've ever found yourself wondering why your compensation package is structured the way it is, well, you're in exactly the right place.
Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. First up, we'll look beyond the monthly paycheck. Then, we'll decode the compensation package, followed by the science of salary. After that, we'll explore the Equity Balancing Act. And finally, wrap up with the future of pay.
All right, Section 1, Beyond the Monthly Paycheck.
You know, if you think you're just trading hours for dollars, you're kind of missing the bigger picture of modern human resources. So I want you to fundamentally rethink your paycheck for a second. Is compensation just a salary? Well, in today's fiercely competitive business environment, the answer is a resounding no. See, a salary is simply an administrative transfer of funds. Compensation, on the whole other hand, is a highly strategic function. Companies are in an absolute dogfight for talent right now. They don't just want to pay you, they want to use compensation as a strategic tool to attract the best of the best and, crucially, motivate them to stick around and actually perform.
Let's ground this conversation real quick with how HR actually defines this. Compensation is the total monetary and non-monetary return an employee receives for the work performed. Notice that non-monetary part? It's huge. It really is. Organizations are actively designing these packages that combine financial rewards with vital non-financial benefits. We're talking about things like career development opportunities or flexible work arrangements, being able to bring your dog to the office, or maybe closing your laptop at 3 p.m. on a Friday. It's the total return we are looking at here, not just the cash return.
And the psychology behind these objectives is absolutely fascinating. It basically relies on established behavioral theories, the idea that a worker needs basic financial security before they can even be motivated by things like recognition or self-actualization. So a well-designed system is actively working to hit these psychological triggers. It attracts qualified talent, retains them so they don't jump ship to a competitor, and motivates high performance. At the exact same time, it has to ensure fairness, reward actual results, maintain strict legal compliance with labor laws, and ultimately improve overall job satisfaction. That is a massive heavy lift for just one system.
Moving right along to Section 2, Decoding the Compensation Package.
And this brilliantly illustrates what's actually inside the box. There are two main pillars to your total package. On one side, we've got direct compensation. These are the financial payments made directly to you. Your basic salary, wages, bonuses, sales commissions, overtime pay. Basically the cash in hand. But on the flip side, we have indirect compensation. These are the critical employee benefits provided over and above your regular pay. Honestly, these indirect elements are the unsung heroes of the workplace. They're the reason a trip to the dentist doesn't completely bankrupt you. We're talking health insurance, paid leave, maternity and paternity benefits, retirement plans. They provide that vital financial security and ensure your long-term well-being.
Now, these pillars build into another really critical distinction: fixed versus variable compensation. Fixed compensation is that predetermined safety net, your basic salary and fixed allowances. It's paid out regularly, regardless of performance, and it just provides pure stability. But variable compensation, well, that's where the dynamic motivation really happens. This is pay linked directly to individual, team, or organizational achievements. Think performance bonuses, sales commissions, or profit sharing. Variable pay is essentially the carrot that motivates employees to push for higher and higher levels of performance.
All right, Section 3, the science of salary.
So we know the components, but how in the world do they calculate the exact dollar amount they offer you? Well, arriving at your salary isn't just some wild guessing game. It actually follows a really rigorous 6-step blueprint. First up is job analysis, where HR pinpoints the exact duties and responsibilities of a role. Once they have that, they move right into job evaluation, figuring out the relative worth of that job compared to others in the company. Then, they take all that data to design a salary structure, which creates specific pay grades and ranges. From there, it's about market comparison, basically surveying competitors to make sure the offer is externally competitive. Finally, we get to the actual implementation of the policy, followed by periodic review, because as we all know, market conditions and inflation are always changing. So this takes a totally abstract concept and turns it into a highly concrete, systematic process.
But of course, that process doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It's constantly being buffeted by internal capabilities and external pressures.
Internally, a company has to look at its own ability to pay, its broader business strategy, and the specific value of the job itself. Externally, HR managers are constantly fighting battles against broader labor market conditions, rising inflation, the cost of living, and really strict government regulations, like minimum wage laws. And honestly, knowing this is incredibly empowering. Why? Because your salary is essentially the exact, literal mathematical intersection of these internal capabilities and those external realities.
Which brings us to Section 4, the Equity Balancing Act.
Compensation management is basically a constant tightrope walk. They're trying to balance two critical types of equity. On one hand, you have internal equity. This simply means fairness within the organization. If two people are doing the exact same job with the same experience, they should be paid similarly. If they aren't, well, you get a ton of resentment. But on the other hand, you have external equity. This is competitiveness with the outside labor market. So you might have perfectly fair pay internally, but if a rival company across the street is suddenly offering 20% more for the same role, you're going to watch your top performers walk right out the front door. Balancing these two equities is arguably the absolute hardest part of the job.
So the crucial point really comes down to this. Employees evaluate compensation not only by how much they receive, but also by whether they perceive it as fair. Pay is incredibly psychological. I mean, think about it. You could be paid a fantastic salary, but if you find out the slacker sitting next to you doing half the work is somehow making more money, your motivation crashes instantly, right? The perception of fairness, driven by transparent policies and equal pay for equal work, builds trust just as much, if not way more, than the actual dollar amount printed on your pay stub.
Finally, Section 5, the future of pay.
As the modern workforce changes, how we get compensated is changing right along with it. The old one-size-fits-all model of the standard monthly salary? Yeah, that's pretty much dead. Organizations are now actively customizing compensation for specific groups. For instance, senior executives are heavily incentivized with stock options to tie them to long-term company success. Sales employees, their packages are heavily weighted towards commission to drive revenue. Gig workers bypass the monthly salary entirely in favor of project-based payments. And with the massive rise of remote staff, we're seeing specialized technology allowances, like stipends for ergonomic chairs or high-speed Wi-Fi, along with flexible benefit packages tailored for work-from-anywhere lifestyle.
And this evolution is only accelerating. We're seeing a massive shift toward performance and competency-based pay. That means you're paid for the specific hard skills you bring to the table, not just the job title you happen to hold. We're also seeing highly flexible benefit plans where you can literally pick and choose your perks. Behind the scenes, digital payroll systems and AI-supported compensation analytics are actively shaping the industry. Artificial intelligence is helping companies map external market data instantly to make sure they're maintaining both that internal and external equity, which, thankfully, dramatically improves transparency across the board.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. If we accept that your paycheck is a calculated reflection of your perceived value to an organization, balancing psychological motivation, market forces, and internal fairness, how will AI and the gig economy redefine what you are truly worth tomorrow? As we shift further and further away from fixed salaries and closer to hyper-analyzed, skill-based pay, your ability to understand how these compensation systems actually work might just be your most valuable asset of all. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.